Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Westport Middle School. We are so excited to have you here today. Not only are we in the school library, but this is also a branch of the Louisville Free Public Library, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about that later. We are very excited to participate in the Kentucky Literacy Celebration this week. This is wonderful, and we're especially honored to be the only school in Jefferson County receiving a visit from Mrs. Beshear today. It's an honor to introduce you to our First Lady, Mrs. Jane Beshear. Mrs. Beshear is a former teacher who is passionate about education. To tackle the school dropout problem in the Commonwealth, she organized Graduate Kentucky, a community approach. Focusing on dropout prevention and increasing graduation rates in Kentucky public schools, this program has held summits across the state to gather ideas toward ensuring that students of all ages are given every opportunity to succeed. She has also pushed for legislation to raise the dropout age for high school students in Kentucky from 16 to 18 years of age. And to get kids excited about the world of reading, 4 times per year she releases a top 10 reading list for students with recommended books that fit a variety of age ranges. We look forward to hearing comments from Mrs. Beshear a little later in our program. This morning, a few of our students are going to share with us a book that made a difference in their lives. I want to introduce our facilitator, Emerson Wells. Emerson is a 7th grader in our Montessori program. Emerson is on the A honor roll and a member of the Quick Recall team. He enjoys being outside and running, and he plans to one day be an engineer. But I think after today, you may think that he needs to be in the media. Emerson.
Thank you, Dr. Edelman. I am excited to be here this morning to participate in the Kentucky Literacy Celebration. On behalf of the students at Westport, I want to extend a special welcome to our guests. Mr. Grisette will be videotaping our program this morning for broadcast on our daily news for all in the school to view. Reading is one of the most important skills a student can learn. It is a lifelong skill used daily. As a beloved children's author, Dr. Seuss once said, "The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go." This morning we're going to spend a few minutes talking about books that made a difference in our life. 4 students will share an important book that has made a difference. We will begin with introductions. Please tell us your name and the team you represent. Briefly share with the audience about your book and why it is important to you.
The book I chose to talk about is The Outsider by S.E. Hinton. This book is about 2 rival gangs that's eating in 1960 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The person telling the story is Pony Boy Curtis. He is from the Greaser. His gang are poor. They don't have fancy car or clothes. And many people think that they are bad, but they're not. The other gang is the Shoses. They are rich lad. They have fancy cars and clothes, money, and they get all breaks in life. This book opened people's eyes to the reality of life. Life is difficult and it have a lot of action. I like this book because it talks about the real life. It discuss how important life and friend and how you can own them. Thank you.
One book that has made a difference to me in my life is Diary of a Wimpy Kid, written by Jeff Kenny. The book is about a boy named Greg Heffley who went to stay with his grandfather at the nursing home where he lives, and something really embarrassing happened. Now it's the next summer, and he's trying to keep his secret hidden from everyone, especially his brother Roger. This book has made a difference for me because it's a good page turner, has lots of different genres shown throughout the book, and it always makes me laugh.
One book that has made a difference to me in my life is The Lightning Thief, written by Rick Riordan. This book is about a boy named Percy Jackson who finds out he's the son of Poseidon and that he's a demigod. Then he goes on an amazing adventure fighting mythological creatures while trying to find Zeus's thunderbolt that he and his father were accused of stealing. This book made a difference for me because it was the first book that I read, but even though I knew it was fiction, the writer made me feel like it was real. And now I'm a better reader and writer. The book also got me more interested in Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Norse mythology. I love the book and the series so much that I read each of them more than 5 times since 2nd grade.
Star Wars, Boba Fett, and the Ship of Fears.
Boba Fett and the Ship of Fear. What's the book about? What kind of book is it?
Adventure and fantasy.
Very good. And why should a person read this book? What did you like about it?
Boba Fett got some cool helmet and some jetpacks and may actually he used.
And he's got some cool moves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was good. Where can a person find a book like this?
Library, book fair, and bookstore.
Bookstore. Very good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for telling us about your experiences. You have shared with us a variety of books that we look forward to reading. Now I would like to invite the First Lady of Kentucky, Mrs. Jane K. Beshear, to join me for a brief conversation. Welcome to Westport.
Thank you, Emerson. I'm delighted to be here.
What makes literacy such an important part of learning?
Well, if you can't read and read well, you'll never be very successful. It's the foundation of everything that we do as far as education is concerned. Not only is it that, but it's a wonderful way to, as I heard the students talk about what was of interest to them, to go places and to understand about other cultures, those kinds of things. That's what reading allows you to do. And the more we read, the more literate we become. And the more literate we become, the more successful we become.
Thank you. All right. You've heard some of our students talk about a book that has made a difference in their life. Could you tell us a book that was important to you in your life?
Well, there's a lot of them, and actually, I think one of the questions that I understood you were going to ask me was at when I was your age. I'm not sure I can remember when I was your age. But I thought about it, and I looked at some of the books that are from the 6th to the 8th grade reading level, and one of them that I came across, and one that reminded me how much I enjoyed, was To Kill a Mockingbird. And I suspect that many of the adults here and the audience have read that, and many of the students have too. And it's one of those books that, regardless of whether you're a 6th grader, 7th grader, or 8th grader, or a really old adult like me, the moral to the story is still so very important. And that's the kind of books I like to read, or books that really make make me think about or learn about people who want to make a difference.
Thank you. What book are you currently reading?
Well, I brought it with me right now. The one that I'm reading right now, that I've just started, so don't ask me what's in it yet because I'm just getting started. But since my husband was elected governor, I've made it a point to try to learn about people that influence Kentucky, or people that are either authors or artists that are in Kentucky. So I've chosen several of the books of Barbara Kingsolver. And she grew up in Kentucky, and she writes about, I'm a great outdoors person, and she writes about nature and human nature and how it all combines together. And this particular book, even though I haven't gotten started in it, is about a missionary family that goes to the Congo and what they go through. Several of the other books that I've read recently and that have made a real profound impression on me. One is called The Invisible Thread, and that's by Laura Schroff. And that particular book is about how a woman in New York meets a young African-American boy who is hungry and begging on the street. And she passes him by when he asks for money, and then her conscience grabs hold of her, and she goes back and takes him to McDonald's for breakfast. And they have a friendship that develops that goes throughout this young man's life, and what a difference it makes for both of them. He learns about a very successful woman, a professional woman in the in the business world who has many things and lives in a very nice place. And he, on the other hand, lives in poverty and barely knows when his next meal is, where it's going to come from, and has never been encouraged about the importance of education. And the moral to the story is that she learns as much from this young man about life as he learns from her. Another one that I love is The Glass Castle, and that's Jeanette Walls. And that's about a young lady who who begins her life practically living in an automobile. Her family moves from place to place, extremely poor. They live in shanties in one of the coal towns in West Virginia. And how this young woman goes ahead and actually goes to New York when she's 16, 17 years old, finishes her high school, finishes her college, becomes a reporter for CNN, and yet her parents are still, her mother is still on the streets, begging on the streets. But how one person, regardless of your circumstances, can make their life important. And the third one, see, you ask me and I just keep on going, is Homeless to Harvard. And this again is about a young woman who basically lives in New York and is homeless. Her parents are both involved in drugs. That's the life she lives on the streets. And she suddenly makes up her mind that she wants a different life, and she ends up going to Harvard. And that's Liz Murray. And she's actually been in Louisville to speak. So I guess the moral to what my interest is that I like to believe that anybody can do whatever they want if they just make up their mind to do it.
What message or advice would you like to share with the students and staff of our school about reading?
To read, and read more. But I think the thing that's most important, and I think these students have all exemplified it in the books that they have chosen, is to read something that you have interest in. Whether it's Star Wars and all that goes with that, or whether it's books that are funny, or whether it's books about mythology that you want to learn more about. It's really important that we continue. The more we read, the smarter we get. And so if each of us make up our mind, and that's what I would like to encourage every student, not just read your schoolwork, but to always have a book on hand and to read 20 to 30 minutes a day. That will make a huge difference in the level of your literacy and also your understanding of the world.
How can we encourage people to read more, especially people my age?
I think we encourage them to find the books that they like. So now, Emerson, I'm going to ask you, what do you like to read about?
I've read numerous books also, as they have. I've read Harry Potter, Percy Jackson. I've read some graphic novels. I've actually read a few of the Diary of a Young Kids also. I have to say, I do like to read a lot, and I'm happy that I've lived a life like that because I feel like it's helped me a lot with my vocabulary and my literacy. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. On behalf of the students and staff at Westport Middle School, we appreciate your time this morning to join us. We also appreciate your efforts to promote literacy across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. You have inspired us, all of us, to continue our journey of reading and learning. Thank you. In closing, I would like to share another quote from Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where to go. You're off to great places, today is your day. The mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Dr. Harkins? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No, it's just an honor to be here, and an honor always to have Lady Jane Beshear with us in Jefferson County Public Schools. She is an inspiration to all of us, as the governor is, and for what the influence that she has. And I agree with everything she said about the importance of reading. But I also want to commend Westport, Principal Edelman and the Westport staff for their focus and their hard work. And the students did an outstanding job. So we're all fortunate to be here at Westport. And we all agree the most important thing that you can do in your life is learn to read well. And we are proud of the nationally board certified teachers at Westport, and proud of the teachers that are going through the process, because that's such a rigorous process. So we're honored also to have Dr. Thorpe with us at Westport, because the importance of being rigorous as a teacher, that models what students need to do and the standard they need to set for themselves. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
It's such an honor for these students and for this community to have you here. And I would say to the students, I know you know this, but the First Lady of Kentucky has 1 million invitations of where she could have been today. This is a big state, and a lot of people want to hear from her, and she wants to talk to a lot of them. She chose to come here. That's a great honor to you, and I would suggest that you all think of ways that you can share that honor with other students, because you got to hear directly from her today. Now you have a responsibility to share what you've learned with students back in your class and maybe in students of other schools. But mentioning To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favorite books as well, I think of Jean Louise Finch, who everybody knows as Scout. And do you remember her first day of school? It's a classic piece. I urge you to go back and look at it. She shows up at school and she already knows how to read, because her father, Atticus, taught her at home by reading the newspaper with her. And she goes to the Macomb County schools in Alabama, and she didn't have a board-certified teacher. She had a teacher who determined that if Jean Louise had arrived at school already learning how to read, she must not have learned how to read correctly. And the teacher set out to undo everything and told her, you go home and tell your father to stop reading you. That's not the way we know education should work. And Jean Louise understood it as well. It's a great commentary on American education from back in those days. It's nice to be reminded of that book. My favorite book has its title in the first line. I wonder how many of you know it. It starts out, in a hole in the ground there lived a, anyone know? Good guess. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. And if you haven't read The Hobbit yet, I hope you'll take a look at it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Let me say while I'm here how much I congratulate this school, both in this panel and in Emerson's presentation as the MC. And the fact that you have drawn all of us into thinking about our favorite books and books that have made a difference in our lives. And that I want to congratulate Westport Middle School on the emphasis that you're putting on reading, and not only reading for your classroom and your classwork, but also for entertainment. You know, it's the way we get to go to places that we've never been before, or people that we would like to meet, or different experiences that we might never have the chance to do or have never thought about doing, but maybe might just be the inspiration for where we go and what we do for the future. So congratulations to each of you all. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to what is your favorite book and why, which is very important that we all understand what we're reading and what role it plays in our lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Beshear, for your work and dedication to make Kentucky a better place. We've been challenged not only to learn to read, but also to help others develop their literacy skills. And the literacy skills and education levels of the people in our state has a significant impact on our lives. Westport is working diligently each day to increase the skills and student achievement. And our faculty and staff are committed to providing an engaging learning environment incorporated with literacy. So thank you, Emerson. Thank you to our student panelists and all of our students that participated today and helped out, to our staff, to our JCPS staff that was able to be here today, and of course to our special guests. So thank you so much for coming today. We are honored and very proud of your work.